They thought they had you figured out, my friends. You were the one who always sent that first message, the one who forgave before they even asked, the one who would bend until your back almost broke just to keep the peace. And in their mind, they built this picture of you, a picture where you were predictable, easy to read, and always available. But then, silence. No good morning text, no how's your day, no calls just to check in. It was like pulling the plug on a TV show mid-scene. The lights go out, the screen turns black, and the silence becomes so loud it starts to echo in their mind. That's when the panic begins. You see, folks, human beings are wired to hate unfinished stories. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Our minds get stuck on the things we didn't finish. That's why a song cut halfway through will play in your head all day. That's why a conversation that ends abruptly will keep you awake at night. And that's exactly what your silence is doing to them. You didn't just leave the conversation, you left the story wide open. You left them with a cliffhanger they can't stop rereading in their head. Silence is not weakness. It's not retreat. It's the most controlled, most dangerous move you can make. When you take away access to yourself, you're telling them without words, I am no longer on sale. My time is no longer free. My heart is no longer up for grabs. That's not petty, that's power. Because power in relationships is not about shouting the loudest or chasing the hardest. It's about having the strength to stop speaking when you know your words will no longer be valued. Imagine a marketplace, my friends, where a rare gem has been sitting on display for weeks. People walk by, admire it, maybe even pick it up, but they never buy. They assume it will always be there. And then one day, it's gone. The stand is empty. Suddenly, everyone who walked past that gem is asking, where did it go? Who bought it? Did I miss my chance? That's you. You were always there, and now you're not. That absence is more valuable than 1,000 "I miss you" texts could ever be. You see, they were comfortable. Comfort is the killer of appreciation. They thought they had all the time in the world to play with your emotions, to ignore your worth, to take what you gave without ever paying the price of respect. But silence is the eviction notice for comfort. It shakes the ground under their feet. It forces them to face the truth they've been avoiding, that you were never the weak one. You were simply the one who cared enough to stay, and now you're the one who cares enough to walk away. The beauty of silence is that it doesn't just protect you, it also exposes them. It shows who reaches out when the noise stops. It shows who values your presence enough to fight for it. And let me tell you, my friends, those who truly see your worth will feel that silence like a weight on their chest. They will replay the moments they didn't answer, the times they ignored your needs, the times they thought you'd always be there, and they will feel regret creeping in like a shadow that never leaves. So hold your silence. Don't break it for comfort. Don't break it for weakness. Break it only when it serves your growth, your peace, and your worth. Remember, self-control is the highest form of strength. You are not running away. You are standing your ground without moving an inch. And that is something they can't resist. So before we go any further, I want you to do something bold with me right now. Drop it in the comments, word for word. I hold my power. Don't just type it, claim it. Put your stamp on it so the world, and more importantly you, see it in black and white. That's your contract with yourself. Number 1, the sudden void they can't fill. The moment your presence disappears, my friends, it's not just the absence of a message. It's a shift in the air they breathe. It's waking up and reaching for their phone, expecting to see your name glowing on the screen and finding nothing. No good morning, no how's your day going, no little check-in that made them feel noticed without them having to ask. At first, they might tell themselves it's nothing, maybe you're busy, maybe you'll text later. But the hours pass, and the silence starts to feel heavier. They check their phone more times than they'd ever admit to anyone, even to themselves, and still, nothing. It's like walking into a room where music was playing just moments ago and suddenly it stops. The melody that filled the space is gone, and all you're left with is the hum of emptiness. Here's the strange thing, that silence is louder than the sound ever was. You see, the human mind gets used to patterns, to rhythms. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And in this silence, they're forced to face themselves without the distraction of your voice. Your presence was their soundtrack, and now they're left with the raw, uncomfortable quiet that makes them aware of every thought they've been avoiding. In the beginning, they might shrug it off, act like they don't care, but silence is patient. Silence doesn't rush. It seeps in slowly, like water finding every crack. It settles into their mornings when they wake up to a blank screen. It slips into their afternoons when they scroll through social media and see you've been active but not with them. It creeps into their nights when they try to sleep but can't shake the thought of why you're not saying anything. And here's where the mind begins its work. They start asking questions they can't answer. Why aren't they talking to me? Did I do something? Are they with someone else? Did they finally stop caring? Those questions don't just appear once and disappear. They loop over and over, becoming a background hum that refuses to shut off. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Your silence forces them into their own imagination, and that's a place they can't easily escape from. It's important to understand, my friends, that this is not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your peace, your control. When you pull your energy back, you are teaching them what life without you feels like. And here's the truth. It's not warm, it's not easy, and it's not something they can replace overnight. People think they can replace a person like swapping a chair in a room, but when the soul connection is gone, no new furniture fills that space. Imagine a house that has always had a warm fire in the hearth. The flames have been burning for years, providing light, heat, and comfort. One day, without warning, the fire is out. The air is colder. The shadows are longer. They try lighting candles. They put on extra layers, but nothing replaces the living warmth of that fire. That's you. You were the steady flame in their life, and now that flame is gone. The cold is undeniable. Silence does something words can't. Words can be argued with, explained away, twisted to fit a narrative. Silence, though, silence leaves nothing to argue with. There's no defense against it, no counterattack. It's just there, staring back at them, forcing them to feel everything they worked so hard to avoid. And the more they feel it, the more they realize that your presence wasn't just something nice to have. It was something they relied on. Yes, it's difficult for them to admit this. Their pride will tell them to ignore it. Their ego will say, you don't need them, you're fine. But the subconscious knows the truth. Carl Jung taught us that what we resist persists. And the more they resist missing you, the more it grows in the quiet. They will try to fill that void, maybe with other people, maybe with distractions, maybe with constant busyness, but it won't work. Because the void you leave isn't just about words or attention. It's about the way you made them feel, and feelings don't vanish on command. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what if they don't care? What if they really don't miss me? My friends, listen closely. Silence reveals the truth far faster than speaking ever will. If they don't care, your silence will confirm it, and you'll have your answer without wasting another drop of your time. But if they do care, and deep down most of them do, your silence will be the mirror they can't look away from. That mirror shows them a world without you in it, and for many, that's a world they're not ready to face. The beauty of this, and the reason it's so powerful, is because you are no longer chasing. You are no longer explaining. You are no longer bleeding yourself dry just to be heard. You are in control, not of them, but of you. And control over yourself is the only true control there is. The Stoics believed that peace comes from within, not from what others give or take away. This is your test. This is your moment to sit in your own quiet strength and watch the world adjust to it. So keep holding the silence. Let them feel the absence. Let them wrestle with the questions. Let them hear the loudness of your quiet. Because the truth is, when you stop feeding them your attention, you give them the opportunity to realize its value. And once that realization hits, it's not easily forgotten. I want you to do something with me right now. Lock it in. Type it into the comments so it's more than just a thought in your head. Write this: my silence speaks power. This is not just a sentence. It's a commitment to yourself. A reminder that you don't need to fill every gap with words, that you don't have to explain your worth, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Number 2. Their mind starts filling in the blanks. Here's where it gets interesting, my friends. When the silence sets in, the human mind can't just leave it alone. It's wired to find answers, to close loops, to make sense of what feels incomplete. Without your voice, without your steady presence, they're left with nothing but the last snapshot of you their memory can hold. Your last words, your last smile, that last look you gave them before you walked away. And they replay it over and over like a scene in a film they can't fast forward through. Was there a hidden meaning in your tone? Did your smile say something they missed? Was your last glance telling them you knew more than you let on? This is where uncertainty becomes their shadow. See, humans hate uncertainty more than they hate bad news. If you told them outright that you were done, they could wrap their head around it, even if it hurt. But when you go silent, you leave a story without an ending. And the human brain, my friends, is not good at walking away from an unfinished story. That's the Zeigarnik effect in action, a psychological truth that says we remember incomplete tasks more vividly than completed ones. It's the reason a song that gets cut off before the chorus will drive you crazy for hours. It's why you can't stop thinking about a conversation that ended with "we need to talk," but never happened. And here's the thing, they start rewriting history to fill in those blanks. At first, it's harmless curiosity. I wonder what they're doing. Then it becomes self-interrogation. Did I misjudge them? Did I underestimate what they were worth to me? And slowly, that turns into doubt. They begin to question their own judgment. Why did I let them go? Why didn't I see this coming? Each question digs deeper, creating little cracks in the story they told themselves about you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your silence drags their unconscious forward, forces them to see things they buried. Maybe they thought you'd always wait around. Maybe they convinced themselves you needed them more than they needed you. But when you step back and stay back, the old narrative doesn't work anymore. The mind hates that, so it keeps circling, trying to find a version of the story that makes sense again. This is where the danger lies for them. Because the mind is a poor historian when the heart is involved. They don't remember the fights as clearly as they remember the way you looked at them when they made you laugh. They don't remember the days they ignored your messages as clearly as they remember the one time you stayed up late just to talk them through their bad day. The bad gets blurry and the good gets sharper. That's not by accident. That's selective memory, another trick of the mind when it's dealing with regret. And all of this, my friends, is happening without you lifting a finger. You're not sending cryptic texts. You're not posting quotes aimed at them. You're not feeding the fire, and yet the fire burns hotter than ever because it's being stoked from the inside. The Stoics taught that the mind will create its own suffering when it's left alone with uncertainty. You've handed them that uncertainty like a mirror, and they can't put it down. They will imagine conversations that never happened. They will picture you in places you've never been, with people they've never met. They'll create whole stories in their mind to explain the silence. And in those stories, they often cast themselves as the one who lost something rare. This is the quiet beauty of staying still. You let them do the work for you. You let their own mind become the messenger of your value. So remember, this is not about cruelty. This is about letting reality speak louder than explanation. They will either face the truth of what they had, or they will watch it slip through their fingers without ever knowing how to get it back. That's their choice now, not yours. Write this with me in the comments. I am the unfinished story, because you are. You are the chapter they can't skip, the plot twist they didn't see coming, the mystery that won't let them rest. And when you hold your silence, you hold that power. Number 3. The curiosity that turns into obsession. At first, it's nothing more than a passing thought, my friends. A tiny flicker in their mind. I wonder what they're up to. It's harmless, they tell themselves, just curiosity. They'll check your profile, maybe scroll a little, maybe glance at that old photo of you, and then they'll go back to whatever they were doing. But curiosity has a way of planting seeds, and seeds don't stay small when the soil is silence. The next day, that same thought returns, but this time it comes with more questions. Why haven't I heard from them? Are they busy? Are they with someone else? Are they happy without me? And here's where the shift begins. What started as an occasional wonder becomes a quiet itch they can't scratch. They start checking your name in their messages more often, just to confirm you still haven't reached out. They notice the days stacking up. They notice the gap where you used to be. And then, one day, they see it. Proof that you're still living, still moving, still breathing without them. Maybe it's a picture of you laughing with friends. Maybe it's a post that shows you out somewhere new. Maybe it's nothing at all, just the fact that you're online but not talking to them. And in that moment, something in their world tilts. They realize, deep in a place they don't want to admit, that you don't need them, that you're not waiting, that you are, in fact, capable of existing without their permission. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." And here's the catch. They resist the idea that they could be forgotten, so it stays with them. They resist the idea that you're thriving, so they keep checking to see if it's true. The more they check, the more they feed the obsession. This isn't about love anymore, it's about the disruption of their belief system. They had you boxed in, labeled and shelved as the one who will always be there. Now you're outside the box and they don't know where to put you. You see, my friends, every unanswered question is a knot in their mind. And knots don't loosen on their own. They tighten. Who are you with? Why are you smiling? Why haven't you said anything to me? They replay moments in their head like they're looking for clues in an old crime scene. Did you drop a hint they missed? Did you know you'd be gone when you said what you said? This is why silence is so effective. You've left the door closed, but not locked. They could knock, but pride stops them. Instead, they keep peeking through the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of something that will give them the answers they're too afraid to ask for directly. And here's where obsession is born. Not from missing you in a casual way, but from needing to understand you again. They can't reconcile the image of you they used to have with the version of you now. And every time they fail to solve that puzzle, they come back to it. Again, and again, and again. Think of it like a song they used to know by heart. They could sing every word without thinking, but now the melody has changed, and they can't find the rhythm. They try to hum it, but it doesn't sound the same. That's you. You've changed the tune, and their mind can't stand not knowing the new notes. The Stoics taught that our reactions to others are less about them and more about what they awaken in us. Your silence awakens something uncomfortable in them, an awareness of your independence. And once they see that, they can't unsee it. So let them look, let them wonder, let them tie themselves in knots trying to figure you out. You are not obligated to make yourself easy to understand. In fact, mystery is one of the greatest powers you can hold. Write this in the comments right now. I am their mystery. Claim it, because you are. Number 4. The ego they thought was safe starts cracking. Ego, my friends, is a fragile thing. It walks around wearing armor, pretending to be unshakable, pretending it doesn't care what anyone thinks. But the truth is, ego is fueled by validation. It feeds on your attention, your effort, your willingness to keep showing up. And for a long time, they believed they had that from you in unlimited supply. They thought they could walk away without consequence because, in their mind, you'd always be right there, ready to close the gap, ready to fix what they broke. But then, silence. No chasing, no calls, no "let's talk" messages, just space. And space, when it's not filled with attention, becomes a mirror. Suddenly they have to look at themselves without your steady stream of approval softening the reflection, and that's when the cracks begin to show. At first, they might tell themselves they're fine. They might even try to convince others, "I'm over it. They'll be back." But underneath the performance, questions begin to creep in. Why aren't they calling? Why haven't they asked how I am? Do they even care? These questions aren't harmless curiosities, they're little hammers tapping against the walls of their ego. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But to do that, you have to strip away illusions, and your silence is stripping away theirs. It's removing the fantasy that they were untouchable in your world. It's showing them that they could, in fact, be replaced, or worse, that they were never the center of your universe in the first place. For someone with a fragile ego, that's a brutal truth. Because up until now, they've been operating on the belief that your worth was somehow tied to them. Your attention was proof of their value. Every time you reached out, every time you forgave, you were unknowingly reinforcing their inflated self-image. And now, the supply has been cut off. No validation, no reassurance, just the deafening sound of nothing. Silence is dangerous to the ego because it leaves no hooks to grab onto. Words can be twisted, actions can be interpreted in a dozen ways. But silence says, "I don't need to explain myself to you." That lack of control over the narrative forces them to face an unbearable thought, that they may not matter to you anymore. And here's the part that really shakes them. They don't know when that shift happened. Was it during that last fight? Was it when they ignored your message one too many times? Was it when they took your kindness for granted one day too many? The ego hates not having an answer, so it digs and digs, trying to find the moment it lost its grip on you. It's like a king who suddenly realizes the castle gates are open, not because an enemy broke through, but because the villagers simply stopped showing up to bow. That's you. You didn't storm out. You didn't make a scene. You just stopped feeding their need to feel above you. And that absence of worship is more damaging to their pride than any insult you could have thrown. The Stoics taught that self-control is the truest form of power. You have it now and they can feel it. That's why the cracks in their ego aren't just surface level, they run deep. Because if you can live without them, if you can thrive without them, then maybe, just maybe, they weren't as important as they always believed. And once that thought takes root, it's hard for them to sleep at night. So hold steady, my friends. Don't rush to patch the cracks in their pride. Let them see themselves without the cushion of your constant approval. Because when someone realizes they're not the star of your story anymore, that's when they start fighting to be written back in. Write this in the comments. My silence shakes pride. Let it be your reminder that you don't have to speak to be heard. Number 5. The mirror of regret appears. Regret, my friends, has a strange way of showing up. It doesn't arrive loudly, it creeps in quietly, often when they least expect it. At first, they may convince themselves they're fine without you. They may even try to replace you, thinking that what you gave was easy to find somewhere else. But over time, your absence begins to work like a mirror they can't avoid. And in that mirror, they start to see exactly what they lost. They remember your laugh, not just the sound of it, but the way it made the air around them feel lighter. They remember the comfort of being understood without having to explain every thought. You didn't just listen, you heard them. That kind of connection isn't something you stumble across on every corner. And now that they don't have access to it anymore, the things they once brushed off as ordinary start to shine in their memory like rare treasures. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You transformed them in ways they didn't see while you were there. And now, without you, they feel that absence like a missing limb, phantom sensations of something they can't touch anymore, but still feel." Regret is born when the mind compares what is to what was and realizes it downgraded. They look at what they have now, maybe a new partner, maybe just empty space, and realize they can't recreate the way you made them feel. They can mimic your words, but not your warmth. They can try to find your energy in someone else, but the chemistry isn't the same. That realization stings, and it doesn't go away. This is the turning point where casual memories become sacred in their mind. Things they once ignored, your little habits, the way you encouraged them, the way you believed in them, become moments they wish they could step back into, even for a second. And here's the truth, they can't. They burned that bridge when they thought you'd never walk away. So don't rush back to fix that ache for them. Let them look into that mirror. Let them sit with what they lost, because it's in that space of realization that the deepest regret grows, the kind that keeps them awake at night. Write this in the comments. I am irreplaceable. Say it and mean it. Number 6. The what-if spiral. It always starts with one thought, my friends. Small, almost harmless. What if they're talking to someone else? They try to brush it off, but the seed is planted. And when silence is all they're getting from you, their mind becomes fertile ground for that seed to grow wild. Soon, the thought multiplies. What if they're smiling at someone the way they used to smile at me? What if someone else is hearing the laugh that used to be mine? What if they've already replaced me? The human brain is a dangerous storyteller when it's running on incomplete information. And here's the twist. It doesn't matter if those scenes it creates are real or not. The jealousy is real enough to burn. They can see it in their mind. You walking into a place with someone new, you leaning in to listen to them, you giving that look, the one that once made them feel like the only person in the room. It's like a movie they didn't buy tickets for, but can't stop watching. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What's happening here is pure unconscious fear bubbling to the surface. They're terrified of being forgotten, of being replaced, of watching someone else live the life they thought they'd always have with you. And the more they try to suppress it, the more vivid those mental images become. This isn't about you seeking revenge. This isn't about playing games. This is simply human psychology under silence. When we're denied access to something or someone we value, our minds tend to exaggerate what might be happening without us. And every time they picture you moving on, it hits them harder because they know exactly what they lost. They remember how it felt to be on the receiving end of your affection, and now the possibility of someone else experiencing it is unbearable. They might scroll through your social media looking for clues. They might overanalyze every post, every like, every absence. They might even convince themselves they see signs that aren't there. And every time they find one of these signs, real or imagined, the spiral tightens, the jealousy deepens, the quiet anxiety becomes a loud ache. Here's the beauty of this, my friends. You're not lifting a finger. You're not sending cryptic messages. You're not posting to provoke them. You're just living, and their mind is doing all the heavy lifting to make your presence and your absence unforgettable. The Stoics would say this spiral is their own making. Your silence simply holds up the mirror. What they see inside it is theirs to confront. And if they see you happy without them, if they see the possibility of you being loved by someone else, that realization doesn't just bruise their ego, it shatters it. So let them imagine, let their own thoughts do the work. You don't need to prove you've moved on. You don't need to confirm or deny a thing. Mystery is power, and silence is the perfect cloak for it. Write this in the comments. My silence fuels their thoughts. That's your reminder that you don't have to say a word for your presence to live rent-free in their mind. Number 7, the silent status update. Here's the thing, my friends. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is the one you never post, never text, never announce. It's not a quote aimed at them, not a cryptic story they can decode, not a carefully crafted update to show you're doing fine. It's just life. Quiet, steady, intentional life. While they might expect you to be out here begging for attention, explaining your side, defending your choices, you're not. You're simply existing, and that alone is shaking their world more than any dramatic statement could. You see, in a culture where everyone feels the need to prove something online, your silence becomes rare, almost unsettling. They keep checking, waiting for a slip-up, a rant, a sad lyric, a post that hints at heartbreak, but it never comes. Instead, you're living, not loudly, not desperately, just living. You're going about your days without inviting them into the details, and that's where the magic happens. Carl Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." Your life doesn't have to be performed for anyone's validation, especially theirs. And when you stop performing for them, you remove their front row seat. Now they're left wondering what's happening behind the curtain. That absence of drama is what starts eating at them. They're used to people reacting, explaining, trying to win them back. But your calm creates a kind of gravity. It draws them in, not because you're chasing, but because you're doing the opposite. You've removed yourself from their emotional stage entirely. And in doing so, you've made them curious about your story again. It's like closing a book mid-chapter and refusing to lend it out. They thought they knew the plot, thought they could predict your next move, but now, nothing. No updates, no spoilers, just silence. And humans, my friends, hate an unfinished story. They want back in, not because they suddenly deserve it, but because they can't stand being locked out. And here's the beauty. You're not trying to prove your worth to them anymore. You're proving it to yourself. Every day you go without chasing them, you're reinforcing that your peace is more important than their attention. You're showing that you're not afraid of the empty space they left behind. And believe me, that unsettles them more than any fight or confession ever could. They'll start telling themselves little lies to cope. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're just keeping things private. But deep down, they know the truth. They're no longer part of your everyday life, and that thought stings. It forces them to see the possibility that your story will go on without them, and maybe, just maybe, it'll be a better story. So hold your ground. Keep living, keep your peace, keep your business to yourself. Because the less they see, the more they imagine. And when they start imagining, they start missing. Write this in the comments. My peace speaks loudest. Let it be your declaration that silence is not emptiness. It's power. Number 8, the return they'll try to make. It always plays out the same way, my friends. At first, they'll hold their ground, convinced they can outlast you. They'll tell themselves they don't need to reach out, that you'll eventually break the silence. But as the days stretch into weeks, and the weeks stretch into months, the weight of that silence grows heavier than they can carry. What was once their comfort, knowing you'd always be the one to close the gap, has now become their torment. Eventually, they crack. It doesn't happen with fireworks or grand gestures. It's subtle, cautious, almost hesitant. It's a little, "Hey, how have you been?" sent at a strange hour. It's a like on an old photo they've scrolled too far to find by accident. It's them lurking, circling, looking for the safest way back into a space they once took for granted. Why? Because your restraint became their obsession. The thing they thought made them powerful, the ability to ignore you, has backfired. Your lack of chasing has forced them to sit with their own mind, and their mind hasn't been kind to them. The questions, the curiosity, the jealousy, the regret, it's all built up like water pressing against a dam. And now the dam has to break. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And here you are. You didn't just say you'd move on, you lived it. You didn't just tell them you didn't need them. You proved it by not chasing, by not begging, by not folding when the silence felt heavy. That proof is what pulls them back, not because they're ready to admit they were wrong, but because they can no longer stand the thought of not being part of your life. Here's the part that matters most. When they come back, you hold your ground. You don't rush to fill the silence with validation. You don't erase the lessons they learned in your absence. You let them feel the full weight of what it took for them to type that message, to swallow that pride. Because power isn't in making them return, it's in deciding what you do once they do. And the truth is, my friends, they will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but at some point, the pull will be too strong to resist. That's the nature of silence. It doesn't just fade into the background, it echoes, and echoes always find their way back to the source. So when it happens, when that notification pops up and it's them, I want you to remember this moment. Remember how hard it was not to reach out. Remember how your hands itched to break the silence. Remember that every second you held your peace was a brick in the wall of your self-respect. That wall is what brought them back. Not a game, not manipulation, but your refusal to settle for anything less than being valued. And so, my friends, here's the truth. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Every moment you've held your ground, you've been rewriting the story in your favor. You've shown them your value without saying a single word. That's not just strength, that's mastery. So keep holding your peace, because the right people will always find their way back. Now, if this message hit home for you, press that like button, subscribe for more powerful Stoic wisdom, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Stay with me. Your story isn't over, and the best chapters are still ahead.